I got a comment on here recently that I really want to reply to for all of you guys because, number one, it reminded me so much of how I used to think and things I used to say to people. It's also a really good example of the most common responses that I get from Christians when I share my story of how I used to be a Christian and now I'm an atheist. I don't want to pick on this person at all. I'm not going to share their name on here. I think that they mean well. But let's read this comment. It says, "Hi, Promise. I found your channel when your video about the Bethel scandal came up in the video suggestions. I'm a former BSSM student myself. That's the school of ministry I went to. I just wanted to encourage you not to give up on God. He's definitely real and he still loves you. I've seen too many incredible miracles through my ministry to ever doubt God. Jesus even told us that we can believe on the evidence of miracles. Have you ever seen any real miracles before?" You can read the whole comment for yourself. One of the most dismissive things I ever hear is when people listen to my story that I take the time to share, and then they say, "Don't give up on God," as though I didn't devote years and years and years, hours and hours and hours of my time, of my life, of the decisions I made about my life to this God belief. I mean, I committed everything. I fully was in, and I was absolutely seeking and praying and wholeheartedly searching for any piece of evidence of this God. The comment then goes on to say, "He's definitely real and he loves you." Okay, what's your evidence that a God is real? Just emotionally, forcefully saying something still doesn't make me believe. I have Muslims, I have Hindus, I have all sorts of people telling me that their belief is true, and none of you are offering evidence for it. And then it's really one louder to go on and say, "and he loves you." Either you are so lacking understanding and empathy for my position that you don't understand how hollow those words sound, because it's something I don't believe in. This is like me telling you, fairies love you, don't worry. Or you know how hollow it sounds to me and you don't care and you're just reciting it because of some selfish reason. Either way, it's really not helpful. Then you go on to share that you believe because of miracles. Well, that's personal experience. However, I also used to cite miracles as my personal experience. I grew up in the world of Bethel and these people that believe in supernatural healings. I went on mission trips since I was a child with my father, who claims that we have witnessed thousands and thousands of healings, and I used to claim that I had also witnessed thousands of healings. But here I am, an atheist. So let's get into it. You can read my comment here if you want to pause this, but the response is way more interesting. So here's the response. The commenter says, "God usually doesn't reveal himself in an overwhelming way, except through miracles. It is normally very subtle and can only be discerned spiritually. His presence often feels like a soft, relaxing, peaceful feeling, like I experienced when someone prayed for me at church today, and he usually speaks in a still, small voice." What you've done here is you've described subjective human feelings, things that we regularly feel, things that I regularly feel as an atheist. And you're saying, yeah, but that's God. And the problem is we could do that with anything. You could tell me that you got prayed over at church today and that you felt a sensation of peace. And I can tell you, no, actually, that is from the magical pink unicorn goddess. She goes around to people that think the Christian God exists, and she gives them feelings of peace when they're praying. And you can't dismiss that any more than I can dismiss what you've just said, because we're just asserting unfalsifiable things. The thing is, there's natural explanations for those feelings. It makes sense that when you were at church and someone sat and gave you their attention, and maybe you were able to think about or stop thinking about something that was bothering you or whatever it was, and you felt supported in that moment, and you had a moment of basically meditation. There are natural reasons behind suddenly feeling calm. Your heart rate probably slowed. There was probably some music or something going on. You're surrounded by other people. You were at least with one other person that was praying with you. And you can experience these things on your own as well. I experienced them in meditation. There is no reason to assign a supernatural explanation to something that has a natural explanation, especially when you don't have evidence that it only can come from a supernatural explanation. And the still small voice you're talking about, that's just the thoughts in your head. I also used to convince myself, oh, well, that must be God. The problem is there is no test, there is nothing you can do to determine whether that is a God or whether that is your own thoughts. You can claim that there are. You can say, well, if it's good, it comes from God. That's not evidence. That's, again, just asserting something and categorizing something based on a way to fit your own narrative. And I remember my response to these kinds of things would be, yeah, but I would have never thought that on my own, except I did. Next part of the comment says, secondly, regarding miracles, you're talking to the wrong person if you're trying to convince me they're not real. I've probably seen over 1,000 healings and miracles through my ministry, including blind eyes and deaf ears opening, cancer disappearing, people in wheelchairs and on crutches instantly being able to walk, and so many people with pain disappearing from their bodies. Also, I've had miraculous healings in my own body, both through other people praying for me and God directly. I'm not trying to convince you that you don't believe you experienced those things. I believe that you really believe this stuff. But this is all personal testimony. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here because I remember when I genuinely used to think that I had witnessed healings from a God. But I would venture to assume you don't have evidence you can share with us here, undeniable evidence that someone's limb grew back or some other thing that would be breaking news that would absolutely change the way the world looks at miracle claims. Most healing claims revolve around something very subjective, like pain. It's somebody reporting that they had pain and now they don't. A lot of times when somebody is being prayed for, or even when they're just laughing with a friend, they experience a level of pain relief. Our brains can release certain chemicals that comfort us, that make us feel better when we have happy chemicals going off in our brain. This makes sense. It can even help somebody that has a hard time walking suddenly get a boost of energy. The problem for me here is, even if you could prove that you indeed witnessed 1,000 unexplained miracles, they're still just unexplained. You don't have evidence that they came from a God. Because what we also have are millions of reports of people who fervently believed. They prayed just the same way that you did. They believed, maybe even more than you. And they were not healed. They died, they suffered, they continued on the rest of their life without a healing. If you want your answered prayers to be taken into consideration, then you have to accept that the unanswered prayers also have to be taken into consideration. Your third comment says that God does not heal automatically. He does it either through our faith or someone ministering with gifts of healings and miracles. Conveniently, you're now saying that we can't tell the difference between God and chance. They work at the same rate. This is just another unfalsifiable claim, saying that if it happens, it's God, and if it doesn't, well, then it's just human error. But why would an all-loving God make healing such a complex thing that can be ruined by a sinful human? And why are the outcomes consistent with the rate of chance and how illness naturally, statistically, progresses or goes away? Again, there's a lot pointing to the natural and nothing pointing to the supernatural. And here's the last part of the comment, which it's longer, so I'm going to let you just pause the screen and read it, and then I'll give my response. It's funny how free will always works in favor of the abuser and never, ever in favor of the innocent child. And you believe that a God designed the universe to work in this way. He could have, as an all-powerful being, created a universe in which one's free will cannot infringe on another's, or at least not on an innocent child. But he didn't, which is really disturbing. Reality shows that free will isn't a thing, and it's not even in the Bible. In fact, there are multiple instances where God goes against the idea of free will. You should go read about Pharaoh. You are defending a God that you believe knows all. And if a God knows all, then it knows before it even creates a child, if that child will end up in a home where it is going to be brutally abused. And so you believe that God knowingly creates a child destined to be abused and chooses to create anyways. Where is the child's free will in that decision? None of this is evidence. It's just a way to spin reality to fit your narrative.